I have this wild and crazy goal, and that's to hike as many of Pittsburgh's city steps as possible. There are over 900 sets of steps, and though I've done quite a few already, I still have quite a ways to go. But today I was able to knock a few more off of my list and add to my step count. Today I met up with my friend Bill in the Polish Hill neighborhood to trek up and down some of the closed steps in the neighborhood, including the steps right off of Frank Curto Park and the French fry sculpture, and the three directly off of Bigelow Boulevard that used to go into Pittsburgh's Hill District neighborhood. We also hiked two additional sets in the Polish Hill neighborhood that are also closed, as well as several of the open sets of steps in Polish Hill neighborhood. I've done quite a few of them already, but there were a few that I missed last time, and I was happy to be able to do this time. There are still two sets in the Polish Hill neighborhood that I have not done yet, and we were going to do them today, but due to us being very hungry, we decided to skip those and do them next time. We had terrific weather, and it was the best time of year to go and climb these steps, as there were no weeds yet and everything was clear. It was really fun today, and I'm really happy that I was able to knock out some of Pittsburgh's iconic city steps. Starting off the hike, I got off at the Heron Avenue stop on the East Busway. I walked up the stairs up to Heron Avenue where I met Bill. From there, we went over to the Downing Street steps, which unfortunately are still closed as there is still a gaping hole in the middle of the steps. While I hope they do get fixed pretty soon, knowing the city of Pittsburgh, that's not going to happen. So from there, we continued up Heron Avenue to the Hardingway steps. The Hardingway steps are a set with three legs that go from the bottom of Heron Avenue up to the top. They're a pretty straightforward set of steps, and all the steps are in pretty good shape, and they make for a relatively easy hike. They're not too steep. I have done these before, and the first time I came across these steps on my very first Polish Hill step trek, they really, to me, encapsulated what a true Pittsburgh neighborhood was. Once we got to the top of Heron Avenue, we made our way over to Brereton Street, where we did some sidewalk steps. The steps were in pretty good shape, and we just went down and went right back up. We just wanted to knock those off of our list. From there, we made our way back over to the tippy top of Heron Avenue to do the two little corner sets of steps at the corner of Heron Avenue and Bigelow Boulevard. Fun fact about that area, there used to be a tunnel that went underneath Bigelow Boulevard that prevented you from having to cross Bigelow Boulevard right there. There were actually steps that took you down. They filled that in, I want to say last year, and now you're forced to cross the top of Bigelow Boulevard. There are only two ways to get to Frank Curado Park. The first way is to drive. The second way is to walk from the top of Polish Hill down Bigelow Boulevard over to Frank Curado Park. And that's what we did today. It is a pretty scary walk as traffic is pretty fast in this particular area, but as long as you're careful and don't get too close to the street, you should have no problems getting there. Frank Curado Park, known to locals as French Fry Park due to the famous French fry sculpture in the middle of the park. The sculpture is called Pittsburgh, and I guess it was made by the artist John Henry. It's a pretty iconic sculpture, and it's something that you'll see every time you go past Bigelow Boulevard.
I am going to get a picture too, but
Climbing onto these steps, I was really impressed with the condition of these steps. Because these steps have been closed for quite some time now, I expected them to be more far gone than they are, but surprisingly, most of the steps were intact.
So these are in much better shape.
More pictures.
Well, I never went all the way down. Oh, I see, right there.
Yeah, and I looked around for more, but there really isn't. Like,
I think they went all the way down at one point.
I feel like this is really. It could have. I mean, but
It went all the way down to that street.
I also feel like there is down there where this first part ends is probably the path of an old street. So it makes sense that there would be a.
Yeah, these were all homes down here at one point. Watch out for this.
Yep. Watch out for that whole next missing.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Yep. I
At
see
least it has a railing this part, unlike some of the stuff further down.
Okay. Okay.
Once we got to the middle of the steps, however, there were a section where all of the steps were missing, and we had to shimmy along the railing to get down to the rest of the steps. The bottom of the steps, where Burden Street used to continue, was littered with trash and plastic bottles. We did walk around a little bit, but we heard some rustling and were afraid that someone was down there, so we decided to walk back up the steps to Frank Curado Park.
Yeah, that must have been where the street was blocked at one point in time.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something down there. There's a shopping cart down there. Someone might be down here. Yeah, I'm not going too far. It smells real bad down here, so be careful. Yeah. Yeah, I hear something down there, so I'm not. I hear something down there, so I'm gonna not go down there.
I don't know how far we are from houses.
The next set of steps we explored is a little down a ways from Frank Curado Park, and it was a little nerve-wracking to get to as we had to cross busy Bigelow Boulevard, and there is not a gap in the guardrail there, so you have to be really careful when getting to these steps. I'm not sure if these particular steps have a name to them, but these particular steps went from the bottom of Bigelow Boulevard up to the top of the Hill District, where the old Bedford dwellings used to be. At the bottom of the steps, there was a bus stop that took you out of town, and across the street there was a bus stop that took you inbound. These steps were not in the best of shape. There were some railings missing at points, but for not being used in a while, they were in better shape than I expected. We didn't end up going all the way to the top, as these steps really don't lead anywhere, and we wanted to kind of save some time for some longer sets. The next set of steps we came to are also right off of Bigelow Boulevard. They are an older stone set, and they are not listed on the ARCGIS map, so I don't think that they have a name either. Once you get from the bottom of the steps, you end up at this stone landing area where there is this stone bench of sorts, and from there you continue up the hill on the stone steps. Walking up was a little nerve-wracking. There weren't a lot of steps left, and what steps were there were often covered by tree limbs and branches, so in some spots you had to shimmy around the steps and hug onto a tree and pray you didn't go rolling down the hill onto Bigelow Boulevard. These steps supposedly go all the way up the hill, but we stopped about halfway as it was pretty blocked up top. We had one more close set of city steps that we wanted to hit on Bigelow Boulevard, the 30th Street steps. So we once again crossed back over Bigelow Boulevard to decide where the sidewalk was, and once we approached the steps, we were able to cross back over and be on our way. The nice thing about this set of steps, however, is there was still a gap in the guardrail from when there was a bus stop on either side of the street, which helped tremendously when getting across the street as traffic was starting to pick up. The bottom of the 30th Street steps were still in pretty great shape. I don't think this set of steps has been closed for as long as the other two steps on Bigelow, but once you start making your way to the top of the steps, you can definitely see why they've been closed. The steps at the top are severely slanted, and in some sections, the steps are broken or just missing entirely. Bill managed to shimmy his way up to the top of the steps. I wasn't feeling quite as adventurous on these, so I decided just to make my way back to the bottom. We crossed back over Bigelow Boulevard one final time, and Bill led us to an empty field where we were able to locate the top of the lower portion of the 30th Street steps. These particular set of steps took you back down to Polish Hill from Bigelow Boulevard.
Yeah, I don't want to. Ow!
And that right there was me smacking the top of my head on the railing as I'm getting onto the steps. After making sure I was okay, we climbed back onto the steps and headed down to Polish Hill. I'm not entirely certain just how long these steps have been closed for, but given the condition of the bars that block both the top and bottom entrance to these steps, I'm going to assume they've been closed for quite some time now. That being said, the steps were in surprisingly great condition. The only issues that arose on the steps were towards the bottom of the steps. There were a lot of thick branches and lots of vines that blocked your way in certain parts of the steps, but we were able to duck under and climb over some of the branches and get through no problem. Once we got to the bottom of the steps, we continued down 30th Street and up to West Penn Park. We were trying to locate a set of steps that the ARCGIS map listed as open. Unfortunately, we weren't able to locate the steps, but we still got to explore some of West Penn Park. At the far end of West Penn Park, there is a dirt path that leads you up to an abandoned basketball court. We trekked up the path and began exploring the abandoned basketball court. This court was quite eerie, to say the least. On one side of the basketball court, there was a sculpture made entirely of Barbie dolls sticking out of the fence. And in the middle of the basketball court, there was a rusty old parking chair with a Bible sitting on top of it. At the far end of the basketball court was an old basketball hoop with an icy light can hanging from it that had bullet holes. Once we finished exploring the abandoned basketball court, we made our way back through West Penn Park and over to Palauna Street. On Palauna Street sit a small set of steps that go from Palauna down to Brewerton Street. This particular set sits right next to the abandoned building that's directly behind Sacred Heart of Mary Parish.
Yeah. And then are we going all the way down? Yeah. Have you ever been there?
Coach's place?
Yeah. I've been to Gooskey's, but...
I don't think I've ever been there either. I think I've actually been to a park on the shelf.
Gooskey's is very smoky.
Very smoky.
Yes. Very divey and very smoky.
We then crossed Brewerton and took the little tiny corner set of steps that took you down to Dobson Street. From there, we made our way over to Hancock Street, where we climbed the Hancock Street steps all the way back up to Bigelow Boulevard. These steps were in fairly good condition. There was a bit of litter, though, but nothing that made the steps impassable.
Someone's drawers right there. Yeah, these are the ones that are by this warehouse type building.
So we're gonna go left and then come down.
Yep.
Yeah, those ones are cool.
We then continued down Bigelow Boulevard to Harding Street, where we took the Harding Street steps back down to Polish Hill. These steps were a bit nerve-wracking as they're pretty steep and quite flimsy in spots, but we made it down without a scratch.
Ooh, watch your step right there.
Yeah, they put a little inch thick overlay on it.
Okay, that one's really shaky. Yeah, these need redone.
Those railings are not too sturdy.
No. The one on the left isn't too bad, but
this is where it's just smell like gas so bad. It's like, I know it's outside and it doesn't usually matter outside, but like it's just
no, you probably did the right thing by calling. I mean,
yeah, I mean, most likely they came to check it out. I think it was worth doing anything about.
We headed down Harding Street and over to Millwood Avenue to briefly check out the Millwood Avenue overlook. This is a really cool overlook that lets you see some of the Strip District and the Spring Hill and Troy Hill neighborhoods of Pittsburgh. After checking out the Millwood overlook, we made our way to the Jewel Street steps. These steps I was really eager to check out as I missed them on my last Polish Hill step trip. What makes these steps really unique is that there are 3 different ways you can get on or off these steps. The steps start at the top at Millwood Avenue and continue down to Flavin Street at the bottom of the steps. However, in the middle of the steps, there is another set of steps that goes to the alley that takes you back down to Flavin Street. So you can basically do a whole loop doing these steps, which I think is really fun. Once we got down to Flavin Street, we made our way towards the end of Flavin Street and checked out one more abandoned set of steps. These are the Finland steps. And I think at one time these may have gone all the way down to where the East Busway currently sits. But as of right now, these steps pretty much just go into the middle of the hill. These steps were in surprisingly good shape considering they've been abandoned for quite some time. But there were a lot of fallen branches and leaves on the steps, so we had to be careful when going down.
so I think there might have been a house there at one point. Oh, there's an old like furnace or like boiler.
Yes. Yeah, I'm good if you want to turn around. I just thought you should see them down to this.
Did they just end right down there?
I think they might, or there might be another like partial flight in the woods, but I did have to climb a long way up the hill in the woods because I started from the bottom and it took me forever to find them.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, as I said, they don't really go anywhere. I mean, maybe they were down to this house that was here or whatever.
I'm just gonna go right down here. Since it's passable right now, I'm just gonna. Yeah, they end right here.
For the final set on our Polish Hill step trek, we made our way back up the abandoned Finland Street steps, up to the intersection of Finland and Cargill Street to check out a very small set of sidewalk steps listed as open on the ARCGIS map. There was nothing super special about these steps. They were just 3 stone steps, but we wanted to get our step count in and included these in the trek.
Well, it's been a few days since I did the dead step exploration with my good step trekking buddy Bill. We had an absolute blast on the hike, and it was quite an adventure getting to some of the closed sets as well as climbing some of the closed sets. And of course it was fun climbing the open ones as well, especially Jewel Street, which was really fun to do, and I'm glad that I finally got to knock that one off my list. There are a few other closed sets of steps in Spring Hill, Troy Hill, and the Oakland neighborhoods that I do plan on hitting in the next couple weeks before the weeds grow in. And of course, as I stated in the beginning of the video, I do want to climb as many of Pittsburgh's city steps as humanly possible. I do have a couple of friends that have climbed every single set, so I know that it is possible, and I'm really excited to continue on my journey to get all of Pittsburgh's city steps in. I did want to add a couple of notes though. If you're interested in climbing any of the closed sets in Pittsburgh, please, please, please use caution. Always bring someone with you. And if the steps don't look safe to climb, please do not risk your life. It's not worth it. I also wanted to add, and I mentioned this at the beginning of the video, that there were 2 sets that we did miss in the Polish Hill neighborhood. Apollo Street, which is at the far end of Polish Hill, as well as the top of the Harding Way steps that took you up to the pedestrian bridge that used to be over Bigelow Boulevard. The reason we skipped those steps is because we were operating under a time crunch. I had another event I had to get to, and I was also very hungry, as was my friend, and we decided that we would hit those up next time. I do plan on doing a full hike through the Polish Hill neighborhood, starting out at the top of the Hill District neighborhood, so I hope to do that in the next couple months as well. So I will definitely get a chance really soon to climb both of those sets of steps. But thank you so much for coming on my journey with me, and I do apologize if any of the footage is a little shaky. I tried to be as still as possible. I do have a stabilization feature built into my GoPro, but it only works so much. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.